Otaku is a Japanese term referring to someone who is obsessed with something to an unhealthy extent. Though it can apply to any obsession, it's generally used in reference to hardcore anime fans. In the West, the name has adopted a lighthearted connotation, something along the lines of nerd or geek for members of the anime fandom. However, in Japan, being an otaku is generally viewed as a very bad thing, with otaku often being referred to as creepy or gross. Now let's discuss NEETs. NEET is a government classification originating from the UK, but is now used in various Asian countries, including Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. The name describes a young person who is not in education, employment, or training. They are often viewed as drains on society as they don't contribute to the workforce, while often relying on living allowances from their parents even after moving out. The NEET epidemic is a rapidly growing problem in Japan, with an estimated 640,000 in the island nation alone. As more youth find it easier to stay at home than to join the workforce or pursue higher education, that number is expected to rise to over 1 million within the next 5 years. Due to the unique social pressures of Japanese culture, NEETs are often too ashamed to interact with their old friends and family, resulting in a total shutout of the real world. Now that they have no job, school, or friends, there's very little reason to go outside or to meet new people. After becoming a social recluse, they adopt a new nickname, hikikomori, often translated as shut-in. The name hikikomori comes with all of the social prejudices of otaku and NEET, and is generally viewed as the pinnacle of reasons why you don't want to be either of them. These three types of people are going to be the main focus of today's video, specifically the way that certain anime view them and what messages that sends to the viewership at large. Otaku are the primary source of income for the anime industry, and as such, a large amount of thought and marketing goes into this demographic. The shows aimed at otaku can generally be categorized into two sweeping categories, moe and wish fulfillment. Shows in the wish fulfillment category often feature protagonists who are relatable otaku. This allows the audience to understand the character's motivations and personality with very little effort on the show's creator's part. While these shows often poke fun at the otaku market, it's generally in a lighthearted manner, and really just enough to arouse a laugh. But what happens when a show approaches the otaku market from a different angle? What happens when a show takes savage blows at the otaku lifestyle and forces those otaku to look at themselves from an outside perspective? Today, we'll be looking at 3 shows that do just that. Over the course of this discussion, I'll be giving away mild to moderate spoilers from Re:Zero, Higashi no Eden, and Welcome to the NHK. Whether you love it or hate it, it's hard to deny the impact that Re:Zero has had on the anime community. Having finished airing recently, the anime community has gone up in flames debating whether or not it was the best anime of all time, or just another cash grab light novel adaptation. But for now, let's set aside any problems with the plot, enjoyability, or quality, and focus solely on theming for the next few minutes. While multiple thinking points are presented throughout the series, I'd like to focus primarily on episode 18's conversation between Subaru and Rem. Even after taking out both the OP and the ED, this single conversation still took up almost the entire episode. It's just that good of a scene. I think it's fitting that the main enemy of Re:Zero's name is sloth. After all, Subaru's battle with complacency and laziness is the main recurring thread throughout this conversation, and even the overall narrative as a whole. After Subaru's proposal to Rem and his subsequent rejection, we finally get to break down Subaru and see what really makes him tick. We learn that after all this time, and after all of his suffering, he's ready to give up in saving Amelia, Ram, and Roswell. He says that he tried so hard, time and time again, and never been successful, so he's ready to run away to another country and just forget about his life in the country where he's currently living. The idea of giving up after repeated failures can be taken as a metaphor for the life of a NEET. In Japan, the growing social pressure to find a job and make lasting relationships can feel like being hit by wave after wave because it's so hard to get that first job. This leaves youth feeling unable to catch a break, giving up on the standard life and becoming a NEET. Therefore, Rem's response to Subaru is a response to all those NEETs watching who are suddenly relating to him. She tells him to stop giving up and to keep trying by finding the best within himself. In other words, she's saying to the audience, you don't need to live how you're living. Just get back out there and go for it. Later comes the most unveiled, savage attack on hikikomori that I've ever seen in anime. Subaru tells Rem about the time he spent in his own world when he wasted day after day achieving nothing. He says that he's thrown away his life and that no one should ever act the way he did. When I first heard this, I felt attacked. And I'm in full-time school and work. These few lines are the most tonally important lines of the entire show, and what sets ReZero apart from other shows about otaku. It's unapologetic. It's a direct statement to those wasting their lives to shape up. Here again, Rem's response of listing the things she loves about Subaru is a message to the audience. Focus on your strengths. You can do it, just get back out there and give it your all. You will succeed. This brings the message from neat suck to being a neat sucks. Don't give up. Now let's take a look at our second show of the video, Higashi no Eden, or Eden of the East. Now, Higashi no Eden's stance on neats is even more blatant than that of ReZero's. One of the first major plot threads presented to us is the disappearance of 20,000 neats. We later learned that the protagonist, Takizawa, kidnapped them and sent them overseas in order to save their lives from a missile attack perpetrated by the main antagonist, known as Careless Monday. This shows us right off the bat the huge distaste for neat in Japan. This one individual decided that the best thing he could do to save Japan was to kill 20,000 of them. But the message goes way, way deeper than this. Toward the end of the series, we learned why Takizawa saved them. Takizawa's ultimate plan for saving Japan is to encourage NEET to work alongside the other members of society. In order to show this, Takizawa asks the 20,000 to post their best idea of how to stop a missile attack online, and develops a plan to save all of their lives in seconds based on everyone working together, resulting in one of the coolest scenes I've ever seen in anime. In the second movie, Paradise Lost, Takizawa speaks to the entire nation of Japan, first to the working adults and then to the NEETs. He asks the adults to give up their illusions of grandeur and to accept that the new generation has its own way of doing things, and to welcome that new generation into the world and to work together. This is again showing that becoming a NEET isn't necessarily a choice, but rather the result of a society that finds it difficult to provide ends. Next, he speaks to the NEETs of the country, asking them to work together and join him in the Promised Land, a metaphor of the idyllic Japan. Here he shows the strength of the NEETs are their ability to work together. Just think of the power of websites like 4chan, Reddit, and other online message boards. This interpretation of NEETs is slightly different than the ideas presented in ReZero. Whereas ReZero focused on NEETs and hikikomori accepting themselves and vowing to keep trying, Higashi no Eden claims that society itself needs to accept them, or at least give them an opportunity, and that only by working together can a better world be built. Both present positive messages, but they both have totally different outcomes and implementations. As a show infamous for its presentation of hikikomori, Welcome to the NHK is undoubtedly the darkest of the three shows being looked at today. Originally written as an escape for his own hikikomori lifestyle, author Tatsuhiko Tatsumoto portrays the emotional struggle of a hikikomori in a psychological comedy. The main character, Tatsuhiro Sato, is an unemployed college dropout with moderate agoraphobia and paranoia. In short, he's a hikikomori who only leaves his apartment once a week to go have a smoke at the local park on Sunday nights. The series focuses on Sato trying to escape this lifestyle, failing, and having to come to terms with himself time and time again. With suicide and mental illness as recurring plot elements, Welcome to the NHK shows the dark reality of the hikikomori. One of the most interesting elements of NHK, especially when held next to ReZero and Higashi no Eden, is that it doesn't place all of the blame on the hikikomori themselves. In episode 19, another hikikomori, Yuichi Kobayashi, nearly starves to death because his sister stopped bringing him meals. At this point, he had been a hikikomori for years, becoming increasingly agoraphobic. When faced with possible starvation, he crawls his way to a local udon shop and offers to work for food. This rapidly develops into a full-time job that he begins to love. The shopkeeper states that it's amazing what people can do when faced with an ultimatum. When juxtaposed with a previous statement by Yuichi's sister that hikikomori need to be slowly eased out of it, this paints a clear message. The hikikomori themselves are to blame, sure, but just as guilty are their enablers. When asked why he's a hikikomori, Sato himself even states that it's because he can. To show this again, the exact same thing happens to Sato at the end of the series. His living allowance is cut off, his neighbor Hitomi stops bringing him food, and he nearly starves. So what does he do? He goes out and gets a job. Something that he had been unable to do for 4 years, all because he didn't need to. The other reason this series resonates with so many viewers is the depth that it delves into when presenting mental illness. Right from episode 1, it's shown that Sato suffers from paranoia, specifically the belief that everyone is talking about him. A paranoid episode during his first year in college is what initially causes his sudden shift into the hikikomori lifestyle, and repeated episodes keep him there. On top of his paranoia and agoraphobia, Sato may also suffer from depressive psychosis, or depression-induced hallucinations. Okay, so in the manga, Sato talks to his furniture because he smokes crack or something, but that isn't explained in the anime, so it doesn't count, or something. In the show, it's implied that Sato's depression is causing the psychotic episodes that cause his furniture to talk to him, reaffirming all of the depressive thoughts that he's been having. The stance on mental illness being presented goes back to reaffirm the original message. It's not always the hikikomori's fault. These external factors can literally prevent the hikikomori from getting back into the world. Beyond this message of the guilt of the enablers, NHK focuses heavily on the ideas of hopelessness. Throughout the series, a total of 7 different characters either attempt to or succeed in killing themselves at least once. These characters feel alone and that their situations will never end. The idea of escaping the hikikomori lifestyle is such a monumentous struggle that they decide it's impossible. But almost all of these characters are later shown that it gets better and that escape is possible. There's a reason that all 3 of these shows have at least some variant of this upbeat theme. They aren't meant to simply tear down the viewer. Other shows may be complacent in satiating their otaku viewer base, but these 3 have the courage to offend and call out their own market by forcing them to come to terms with the lives that they're living. But it goes beyond that. They make it their duty to help the needs, help the hikikomori watching turn their lives around. NHK was the attempt of the author to start earning his living. ReZero and Higashi no Eden are attempts to help millions of Japanese youth wasting their lives. Rather than selling themselves out for cheap laughs in a Blu-ray release, they actively seek out the betterment of society. The messages presented in them aren't all the same, but they are all equally valid. Hearing that more and more people relate to these shows makes me think that they really have done some good in the world. So always remember, fight on. Hey guys, thanks again for watching this video. Once again, I had a lot of fun making it. One of the things that I wanted to say right now is that part of the reason these videos are taking so long to come out in between each other is I only have a little bit of time on Tuesdays and Thursdays to record. So if there's anything else that has to be added after the fact, I kind of gotta wait. On top of that, it also takes a long time to render as I'm still using a laptop. But despite that, I really appreciate everyone sticking around through this. Also, I wanted to apologize for some of the audio issues that cropped up in the second half of that video. Right now I'm using the Apple EarPod mics, recording in my closet, and obviously not the best sound quality, but who knows, I might eventually get a higher quality mic, and when that day comes, I'll be really excited. So anyway, I really ask that you leave any comments or criticisms that you might want to in the comment section. So far I've been reading over all of them, and what I have seen so far has been hugely appreciated. So thanks again so much, and I'll see you guys next time.